I'm Phil Rickaby, and I've been a writer and performer for almost 30 years. But I've realized that I don't really know as much as I should about the theatre scene outside of my particular Toronto bubble. Now, I'm on a quest to learn as much as I can about the theatre scene across Canada. So join me as I talk with mainstream theatre creators you may have heard of and indie artists you really should know, as we find out just what it takes to be stage-worthy. If you value the work that I do on Stageworthy, please consider leaving a donation either as a one-time thing or on a recurring monthly basis. Stageworthy is created entirely by me, and I give it to you free of charge with no advertising or other sponsored messages. Your continuing support helps me to cover the cost of producing and distributing the show. Just 4 people donating $5 a month would help me cover the cost of podcast hosting alone. Help me continue to bring you this podcast. You can find a link to donate in the show notes, which you can find in your podcast app or at the website at stageworthy.ca. Now, on to the show. Emma Bartolomucci is a choreographer, climate activist, and self-described ecosexual from Toronto, Canada. She joined me to talk about her theatrical multimedia dance show, The Fourth R, which is on now at the Edinburgh Fringe. In this conversation, we talk about preparing to present a show at the biggest fringe festival in the world, how she uses performance in her climate activism, her dance journey, and so much more. Here's our conversation. Emma, thanks for coming on. Tell me about the Fourth R. Just to get started, let's jump in and talk about that.
Okay, so this was a project I started in 2020, and it got severely halted because of the pandemic. We were supposed to go to a bunch of fringes that got postponed, and later we actually didn't even end up going to all of them. Anyways, it's my climate activism really took a deep dive during the lockdowns because I was able to stop, like we all had the time to do, take a moment and learn more. And so in 2020, the project was from a very artistic lens. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, oh no, this isn't about human consumption. This is about fossil fuels and governments. And so that's kind of where the project really took a turn in 2021. And then we were finally able to launch on Earth Day in 2022, which was like a dream come true to have this project happen on Earth Day. And then the project's been just kind of going strong ever since. We've gotten up to 48 showings at this point, which I think for an independent self-produced work, it's a good feat.
Yeah.
We've, a few companies have picked this up here and there. We've done well in schools, and we've done quite a few fringes. And then this summer, we're kind of gearing up for the mothership of fringes, the Edinburgh Fringe.
Just to jump back to like that 2020 time, I've been talking with my girlfriend a couple of times about how, wasn't very short, didn't take very long into that lockdown when nobody was going out, nobody was driving around, that suddenly it was very clear that, oh wait, like all of the driving around and all of the stuff we're doing is called like, I live in downtown Toronto, and like looking out the window or standing on the balcony, suddenly it's like, it's summer, but there's no haze. Interesting that,
Yeah. And now the time that we're in, like, I'm just looking, like I'm looking at the trees and I'm seeing like a haze on everything.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's a really intense feeling.
I find it hard to believe that, I shouldn't, but the fact that we went through all that and we saw how clean the air was, we saw all of the things that changed, the animals that sort of like coming back and like seeing a resurgence in their populations and things like that we could so easily just be like, back to business as usual. Let's get the car and drive, all that sort of, it's ridiculous.
I know, it's insane. It's insane. I don't think we really realize the machine that's just turning a gear in a circular motion. Like we're just repeating the cycles, and there's a lot of change makers out there that want to halt that and want to alter it and shift gears. And I think
Yeah.
that's really, really, really cool.
And it's something that happens in like the theater world too. Like we had
Mm,
this pause, and there were so many discussions about things that we could change. All of these, all of these theaters made all these statements about for Black Lives Matter, and like
it's true.
changing the way that they were going to cast, and behind the scenes and in front of this and on the stages and all that sort of stuff. And then of course the everything comes back, and the treadmill of production starts up again, and it's so easy, and you see how things sort of like start to just fall back into the old patterns.
Exactly. And there was so much fumbling around too. And like granted, like we all needed time to learn. And you know, I had my kind of racial inequity awakening in 2015 when I was a part of a European production of Hair. I got pretty whooped. I got pretty whooped into learning about just how embedded racism really is. And it was interesting to watch because I was with an American cast doing that show, and I think, yeah, I think in America they're dialed into these racial inequity issues a little bit more so than Canada, especially like 5 years ago. Like
Yeah.
now Canada's dialed in with Every Child Matters, but um, yeah, like it was just interesting watching all of us try to put out like mission statements and try to put out anti-racism clauses and just seeing what worked and what didn't, what was offensive, what wasn't. Like I'm not gonna lie, like it's been a journey with because we touch upon racism in my show. It's been a journey with that too, like a lot of learning, unlearning, and listening, deep listening.
I think that's the thing that I think, because everybody wants to run to the end. It's like, oh yes, I want to get to the end where I'm no longer racist, and it's like,
Yes.
doesn't this? There's a lot of things that go, and it's not about like being anti-racist. Is about identifying your own racism, even though you don't like it. To be like, oh yes, no, yes, I see that, and working to make change. It's not like, oh yes, I've realized it, and now I'm no longer racist. So now we can make all of
Yeah.
these changes. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I think, as an artist, what the as a what the pandemic really lended for me was just like a complete ego death. Like, wow. To really understand that like there are so many issues out there and so many people that live in really harsh conditions. Wow, like
Not
I'm
just that, but in the industry itself, like really being able to see the unhealthy patterns that
yes.
we have taken on and just accepted
Yes.
as this is normal. This is what you do.
Yes, it can be exactly. It can be a toxic industry, unfortunately. And it's great to hear. I mean, like so many other industries are, right? So many, we're human. It happens. But it's been so great to hear that there's a lot of change makers. There's a lot of directors that are taking it into their own hands and making spaces available for everybody and all voices. And it's just, I think the future is like it's looking bright and like hopeful for theater. And I don't know, there's a lot of possibility, and I
There's
hope
a
we can use it for good.
Well, that's the thing. Let's use it for
Yeah.
good, not evil. But
Yeah.
I think there's also this idea of all these things that are happening now. You hear these theaters in the States that are like, we can't afford to keep going. Like all of this stuff that's been happening. And I've been hearing more and more about people who have been like so positive in the industry and
Mm,
so like movers and shakers who are starting to be like, I don't even know if I want to be part of this industry anymore because of the
yeah.
toxicity and stuff. And that's really sad.
Yeah, and Phil, like that's exactly where I'm at. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and I don't want to be a downer, but like damn, like this I've gone through some real tough moments in this
Mhm.
industry. And granted, like some of them, yeah, I had to learn. But some of them were completely unnecessary and ego trips and power trips, and trying to make me feel small. And with this work now, with the fourth R, like I've been dancing for decades at this point. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And I'm just ready to really like I'm ready to take up space and be disruptive with the fourth R, because I feel like it's something that we really, the theater industry, we as at large, in large, we need, but the theater industry needs too. Like, yeah, there's more
Yeah.
sustainability to be had.
I think that, and I think that the idea of taking up more space, I think that as performers, we're good at doing that when somebody gives us the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're not so good at it when it's like, standing up for yourself, or like making space for yourself. We're really good at letting somebody else give us some space,
Yes.
which is sort of what leads into the toxicity. We need
Yes.
to there need to be ways to be like, I'm taking this space right now and I'm doing this thing, which is what fringes are great for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great when something that from the fringe can sort of like expand and grow from that. There need
Yes.
to be more opportunities outside of fringe for that kind of thing to happen.
Agreed. I think there's the next generation coming up is really, that I can see, the next generation of theater makers is really like, we want to build workspaces and industries based on care.
Yeah.
And as a millennial, you know what I mean? Care, like that,
Yeah.
that's a big word. And as a millennial who was taught by so many amazing boomers, that also works with so many Gen Zs in my dance company, I feel like I'm often like bridging these gaps of trying to like old meets new, taking the good from what, like the professionalism and like the work ethics that I was taught by my elders, and then taking this new wave of thinking of being like, no, there's toxicity here.
Yeah.
How can we achieve? How can we? What's the word? Like, get through conflict. How can we solve problems and still be nice to each other? In a creative process.
And it's so possible. It's just that, as I'm an old man, so like I'm Generation X. So when I went through school,
Gen
we were
X!
taught like, I'm like
I
Gen
love
X,
it.
yeah. But like we were sort of like at the mercy of like that. Just like, yes, this is how it is. I suffered through this education, and you will too. And we were like, because that we were Gen X, we were like, yes, okay, yes, we will suffer through it too. And then we see other people behind us who are like, nope, we're not going to do it. And we're like, yeah, we should have said that too. Yes, nobody needs to suffer through that,
Really? Because I feel like all the Gen Xers I know are pretty punk.
But I mean, yes, there's the punk aesthetic, but then you get into a theater school, right? And when I was in theater school, we were like, okay, so you're going through your first semester, and then the Christmas break happens, and right before the Christmas break, you hear, oh, like 5 people got cut from our class. And you're like, oh shit, that's a possibility. And suddenly you spend the rest of your time in school living in fear of being cut, that you will do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing. And that sort of primed a lot of us for going out into the industry and, being afraid to speak up when we saw something bad. Because, I
could lose my job at any minute. I'm replaceable. I'm disposable.
Yeah. And then I hear about kids now who are like, because the theater school that I went to hasn't done cuts in years. And I'm like, see, that's how it should be. People will remove themselves if they're not feeling like they belong in the school, or if it's not the right place for them. We don't need to be like, we don't see a future for you in this industry, and we'll cut you, because you don't know that. Somebody's like 18, 19 years old. How can you say that?
Yes, totally. I think I love the point that you bring up about like being shocked into the system of it all. I think at my theater, when I went to school, I was like a big rebel, and and like it had cool moments, but there was also some really uncool moments as well. But I think the takeaway is that like the world moves fast. Like it's a new time. Like let's revamp things. Like let's make new art. Like let's make new rules. This isn't working for us anymore. There's so much harm here. How can we do it right? And I mean, there's always we're human. Like we're going to make mistakes. There's going to be harm, but that resolution, I think, is so important.
It's how you deal with the fact that you caused harm. Right?
Yes.
If you cause harm and your response is, well, you know what? I was harmed when I was in school, so it's okay. It'll just make you stronger. instead of being like, you know what, you're right, that's wrong, and we won't
Yes.
do, like, making a change. That's the important thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because with my younger dancers, like, I don't want them to be traumatized into things like I was. I don't want that for them. Do I want them to do a good job, and do I want them to be professional and show up? 100%. Hell
Hmm.
yeah. But being like the fear of it all, I mean, that's intense, you know? Theater is
Yeah.
a pressurized situation. Like, we're going on stage, we have to produce something good.
Yeah.
Like, there's people coming in the doors, they're coming to watch something. Like, you know, I can't, we can't get around the pressure of it all. Um, but yeah, the fear, not for me.
Yeah. And you were talking about like being a bit of a rebel when you went to school, and I was
Mm.
like, yeah, like within the first year of theater school, they cut all the rebels, like the real, like the people who would speak out. It was like, oh, okay,
Yes.
okay,
And I
yeah,
survived. I had a lot of
yeah.
conditions and a lot of probations, but I survived because you know, I'm talented. I got to stick
But
around.
sometimes you have to fight for your spot. Because I was like, I remember when
Mm,
I was in theater school, every time that date came up, the Christmas break and the end of the year, they're like, well, we're going to cut you. And I would have to claw myself and like fight to stay in the school. And I had to do
really?
that every time. So the entire year was spent in fear. All 3 years of the theater school experience were like, they could cut me at any time. And I might not be able to fight my way back this time. And that's no
Right.
way to make art.
No, 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 no. It's supposed to be like from a blessed, joyful space, a creative
Yeah.
space. When I host my
Yeah.
auditions now, like I just like I had an assistant this time for my tours this summer, and like just having fun, laughing, asking what people like and asking about themselves, like the power dynamics, like how can we shift those, you know? Because it's a creative work, and in order
Yeah.
to get everyone's best, people need to be relaxed.
Yeah. Absolutely. They do.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a stressful situation. So you need to relax people.
for sure.
With this show, the Fourth R,
Hmm.
you mentioned the fringe festivals you've taken it to. You just did it at the Toronto Fringe this summer, sort of like I guess getting ready for the mothership.
Yes.
Um, as you because Edinburgh is like a thing, right? It's like the most
Yeah.
intimidating to
Yeah.
me. It's like the most intimidating fringe festival on the planet, and I get nervous thinking about possibly going to Edmonton.
Yeah.
So like the Edinburgh is big. So,
Yeah.
um, was this a plan when you first like put this show together, or did it come together this year and you're just embracing it, or was Edinburgh always the place you wanted to go?
Okay. I mean, I'm a touring artist. Even when I was a performer, I've most of my career has been international touring. Touring's particularly enjoyable for me. When you're self-producing a work, it's hella stressful, but I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm learning a lot, and I'm pushing my brand, and hopefully pushing an ecological message. So I've done PEI Fringe, Ottawa Fringe. Um, Edmonton Fringe and Halifax. And it was after Edmonton that someone was like, "I think you might be ready for Edinburgh." Um,
Mm,
yeah, because I've done seven in total. I think six or seven fringes in total at this point. And the vibe in Edmonton. Have you been to Edmonton?
I was in Edmonton in 2012 with a show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, then you could see like it's a very festival street. There's a hub. There's food around. There's
yeah,
outdoor performers. People are like pitching themselves and selling their shows. They're talking to people in lines. They're
yeah,
really drawing in audiences.
yeah.
And I really thrived in that environment.
Mm,
Like, let's face it, like dance shows at the Fringe, come on, like,
yeah, 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 yeah,
like it's great to do them and to be a part of the festival, but they're never going to do as well as, well, they're not never, but in my experience, I haven't done as well as some of the theater shows. Um, Regardless, though, I felt like in Edmonton, I was able to pull in decent audiences, big audiences. And that was the moment where I was like, if Edinburgh is like selling yourself and handing out flyers and handing out tickets and this and that, like I could handle it. I'm really nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very nervous. Um, but I'm also very excited to be taking this leap and just to like invest in myself in this way. I think that's
I
going
think
to be
there's
really, really cool.
something about being nervous, and it's a massive month-long festival.
Yes.
So it
Sorry, my dog is
you are
barking.
that's all right. That's all right. You are it's sort of like, if you're faced with the lion, it's smart to be a little afraid of the lion, right? You
Right.
can know how to face the lion, you know how to like deal with the lion, but it's smart to be scared of it, right? And sort of like the Edinburgh Fringe is a little bit like that from everything I've
Right.
heard. So as an undertaking,
Right.
what have you done to, like, how are you preparing for this massive festival?
Cool. Yes, totally. Like marketing, marketing, marketing. I mean, I feel, I like what you said about being intimidated and being scared. Like that's healthy, that's healthy. That's not to say I'm going to like totally regress and not rise to the challenge, just like stay in my room, and be like, it's too much. I'm gonna get it. Like I'm gonna work really hard and I'm gonna do it. So I've been with Edinburgh Fringe. Like they have like this artist hub, so I've been in touch with them and I've been given like a list of like 100 producers that are interested in dance works. I've been reaching out to them, setting up comp tickets. Also, a big part of the Fourth R and what we do is we invite other activists, other green groups to come speak at our event and hopefully like highlight it on their networks as well and like pull in audiences that way. So we've been in touch with the Scottish Green Party because that's the Canadian Green Party is definitely an affiliate of ours, and we and other like activist groups. So we already have a couple confirmed, and that'll be cool. We're performing at the Just Festival, which kind of has its own like hub. It's a church right downtown on Princes Street, which is like the main street in the Edinburgh Fringe, and they have like their own congregation. Their festival is all centered around works to do with human rights. So there'll be audiences that will come from there. We've printed 1,000 like little flyer cards to be handing those out. We have our wireless speaker that we're going to be bringing and going to be wearing our green suits, our very these green suits that we have. We're going to be wearing those in the streets and dancing and handing out cards and pulling people in. What else? I think that's all the marketing. I just gave away all
Yeah.
my information.
No, it's great.
And we have cool social media posts. Like my visual designer, luckily is my partner, and he does a lot for me. We have really cool videos and really cool photos. So we're gonna push those online. We have a banner set up right outside of the Fringe, like a huge banner that's been up for a couple weeks outside of the church with our QR code and our photo and like cool our laurels and our quotes from press.
Mm,
So I think I'm doing the best I can.
yeah.
I've already met with a few producers, talked to a couple people that are also in the sustainable space doing arts as well, set up some Zooms, hear from them. Yeah. Yeah. It's a big undertaking. Like I have so much respect for anyone that produces a work and takes it to another city. It's a
Yeah.
huge, like, be proud of yourself. That is so
Yeah.
epic of you.
It's massive. It's
Hmm.
massive. When you're, and especially when you're self producing, like, 'cause you're like, I've toured both solo shows and other shows to different cities. Like the show that I went to Edmonton with, it was like a cast of 4 plus a piano player. So we had like a
Cool.
thing, but mostly recently I've been touring solo shows. So,
Yeah,
I'm
I heard that.
performing
I heard that.
and, and, and producing. And so you have to like figure out like, how do I manage to be a performer and a producer without letting either of those crumble at any
Yes.
point? What
Yes.
have you learned about doing that in the past few years?
Yeah, I heard you talking on an episode about this very thing. You don't, and you're doing solo works, and you don't necessarily like postering lines. Is that something? Is that?
Oh my goodness, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. I
It
remember. I remember hearing you.
makes me want to vomit.
I know it's pretty stressful, um, and especially as like with an activist work too. Like
Mm.
in Edmonton. Oh my gosh! Like some people, yeah, right. Like some people looked at our poster and was like, no. no way, revolutionize, like, no, like, so they was more aggressive than that. They used some swear
Yes, I'm
words, and they
sure.
told me
I'm
that
sure.
they were gonna burn oil until the day they die, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so keeping like I'm just very privileged to have a lot of energy, honestly. I work like usually 14, anywhere from 12 to 15 hours a day. And then I walk my dog, and then I have a cooked dinner. Like, honestly, I have a lot of energy and a lot of space to give to all these different roles I have to play. I do everything. I'm the marketer, I'm
Right.
the publicist, I'm the financial planner.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a quick like switch when I get tired in those moments. It's just like, but I'm doing what I really love.
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
to people. I'm dancing and talking to people about caring for the planet. Like those, that's what fuels me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
need a big break after this, to be honest. Like I've been going strong for like 2 years now, and I'm feeling very tired.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but yeah, like our Airbnb will also be on a beach, like so there'll be time
Nice.
to relax and
Nice.
be in nature.
That's
And
so important. It's one of the things that people often forget to do during the festival or during any festival is to be like, uh, do I need to flyer today? Or
mm.
would it be better for me to take a break? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe I can just go an hour before. Or like
Yeah.
I see this one show that I think is close to my venue. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to that one instead of try to hit up like seven.
That's a lot of
um,
shows.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Checking in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tend to front load as many of the administrative things as possible before the festival. Like I have a
Oh, yeah.
folder full of like promo images that I can slap like a pull quote on
Yep.
really quickly. And just like I have those like so that, if I get a good review, I can take this thing and I can put it on like the social media really quick. So I don't ever have to worry about that after the fact. I could be like, okay, I've got these things ready to go. And that for me, that's one
Yes.
of the stressful things of like, oh, I didn't have something ready for like promo during the show. Now I have to scramble and do it,
Right.
which is another thing that you don't need to be doing while you're like trying to promote the show to people and performing it.
No, Phil, it's exactly right. Like getting as much of that admin done beforehand. Like I have truly 64 scheduled emails in it ready to go.
Nice.
That I'm just like, I'm not gonna have to worry, like, and I killed myself doing those this
Yeah.
week, but that was what needed to be done.
But that's
Um,
like you killed yourself this week so
yeah,
that you don't have to worry about it after.
exactly.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
want to take a second. Sorry, go ahead.
managing your time as an artist is so paramount,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
paramount. So
Something that
you
a lot
told
of
me,
us haven't been good at over the years.
right.
Yeah. um, I want to step back and I want to talk a little bit about your origin story and coming to be a dancer and also to be an activist. So,
Hmm.
let's start with being a dancer. What first introduced you to dance and what made you want to do that and choreograph?
Yeah, so my parent, I come from a family of musicians. My dad's a very talented guitarist, and my late mother was a great singer, a rising pop star in the '80s. And they could tell that when they put on music, I liked to move around. So then, they put me into dance lessons, and by the age of 8, I was dancing, like 20 hours a week plus. And then in the mornings before school, I'd have piano practice. And on Monday nights when I didn't have dance, I'd have singing practice. And then I was a part of band. And then I was a part of the plays. And then I was doing acting intensives in the summer. And it was really intense. So yeah, I'm a triple threat, thanks to my parents. But dancing is just what I think I was best at and what just like really stuck. And then so I went to school and started choreographing quite a bit and fell into choreographing musicals and then performed some musicals because that was a great way to make money as a dancer first. That was a great way to make money. And I enjoyed doing it. And I was a part of some great musicals. Um, But then when I turned 29, I did my last show, An American in Paris in Arizona. And that was the show where I was just like, you know what? I think I'm done. Like I think I'm done going to small towns for months on end, being around a group of people that I don't know or have any connection to. And I would rather stay at home. I make more money at home teaching and performing for events and things like that. And I can facilitate, like, foster better relationships with the people I love here and not constantly be in and out. So then I decided to open up my company, Dance Fashion, and started making independent works and have put all my energy and money into launching that.
And when did activism start for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always cared about nature, ever since I was a child, and I had to really kind of bury my head in the sand when I was touring commercially because being sustainable just wasn't. Those two ideas were really hard, especially a few years ago. I hope things have changed now. I'm not sure if they have, but even like I was a part of Hair. We protest on stage. There's always been this like sense of sticking up for what is right or sticking up for the underdog for me, or being outspoken, simply that. And yeah, so in 2020, when the pandemic happened, I started to attend a lot of protests and just began to really be fulfilled by that and decided to take my dance work into an environmental place. So I'm not sure, like maybe I don't want to put limits on myself, but it's looking like most of my work will be in an environmental space
Hmm.
going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned your late mother,
Hmm.
um, who was the original singer of the "Everyone Loves Marineland" song, which,
Everyone loves Marine Land.
as a child of the '70s, and hearing that pretty much every night, every day, um, it's iconic.
Hmm.
But what I didn't realize in the '70s was how bad Marineland is.
I know, it's shite. It's terrible. It's so bad.
Right.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
But now you have that connection through your mother to this thing, this place, um, and I don't know if you went as a kid and didn't know how bad it was. Um,
Yeah, I don't
uh,
even think we ever even went.
oh,
No, no,
that's
no. We didn't
probably
even
probably
go.
was.
Yeah, yeah, because my mom was excited. Like she died when I was 6, so I have like a handful of memories of my mother. And Marineland just wasn't like a big one at that time. Like it was more just
Yeah,
like an exciting jingle that she was a part of.
yeah,
But the Marineland, after she passed, like the Marineland commercial would come on, we'd like aggressively turn the TV off.
oh sure,
Yeah, because we hated what they were doing to whales, and they also messed up her contract, or I don't know the full story,
right,
but my dad, it was painful for my dad. Like he was just like, no, they're not a good company.
yeah,
um so yeah, and then everyone's seen Blackfish. Like, god, we still think that's a good idea?
yeah, yeah.
No.
But you have this connection to this place that's legitimately terrible.
Hmm.
And as a climate activist,
Hmm.
I wonder about your thoughts on the connection and the place.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually am a part of a dance residency in Niagara Falls, and I was driving past Marineland, and me and my friend kind of stopped. We were on our way to a beach, and there was protesters out there, and I joined them, and I was just told them my story, and I was, we would stop every car that came into Marineland, and there was a lot, by the way. I was a little bit shocked to see that. We'd be like, "Don't come here. It's a sad place. Like, don't, like, turn around," and they would just kind of like frown, and at least we gave them something to think about. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's they're mammals, but
Yeah.
being on a cruise ship was hard for me, to be
Mm.
honest. I worked on a cruise ship. And that was there was I remember this day working on a cruise ship. There was 400 whales that beached themselves off of the waters of New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah, and they showed footage of it, and I was sobbing that day because I was like, it's because there's too many boats in the water and their sonar
Right.
systems get so messed up, right? Yeah, I'm very sensitive. I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive to all this stuff. And like Marineland, like that's just like one part. Like my mother also had like a hit song in the 80s that was like actually kind of famous and um a big dance hit. So the Marineland is just more of like an interesting like
Yeah,
tidbit, you know? And especially because now
yeah,
I'm a climate activist, so it's like it's kind of it's almost like I don't know, is ironic the right word?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ironic is the correct word.
Yeah.
It's funny because you mentioned like Marineland is just one, and I remember
Mhm.
Canada's Wonderland used to have a dolphin show when it first opened in the
Oh,
'80s.
right.
They got rid of it, but like they had a dolphin show, and like it's a thing that amusement parks did,
Oh,
and it's fortunately most of them have stopped.
yeah.
And to be honest, up until like maybe 2-3 years ago, I thought that Marineland had closed.
I
I thought,
know.
oh, finally we're rid of that place, but no, they're still going.
There's like 50 beluga whales there still
Yeah.
or something crazy. I know. It's just like, oh, once you learn about whales, and they're actually integral to carbon drawdown.
Hmm.
This is something I was explaining to my students this week. They're like, wait, ocean, like whales help carbon in the atmosphere. And I'm like, yeah, like everything in the ocean sucks up carbon.
Mm.
So I really wish that we would just leave it alone. We need it really bad.
Yeah.
If we want to keep
Yeah.
driving cars, if we want to fly planes, like we really need it, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, Now, interestingly, you're going back to school to get a bachelor's in environmental studies.
Yes.
Um, Tell me about the decision to do that, and how does that jive with your theatrical and
Hmm.
dance
Endeavors.
endeavors? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so when I decided to stop touring when I was 29, teaching's always been a big part of my life, but teaching became like a full frontal focus, along with like performing for events. But teaching is like consistent money and fulfilling work. But there just reached a point. I worked at a school that was unfortunately like white nationalist, homophobic, and wouldn't let me like teach the kids the things I really wanted to teach that I thought were really valuable. And I just, it turned me off of the whole situation. I just like, yeah, I'm not, I don't want to be teaching in that way anymore. Like I want to come in and teach about climate change. I want to come into a school and like do the fourth R and like be inspiring for like an hour, a couple hours that I'm there for a workshop. But like to be the role model every single day and to just, it's a very intense role that I'm too tired. I'm too tired to do it. And like
Yeah.
performing and this industry is so like flippant. I'm like
Hmm.
really done with being so flippant and so inconsistent, that I'd love to like have a cool environmental job and like have something stable and then like have resources and money to like put into my dance work. Like that sounds like kind of the next chapter for me.
Yeah.
So it's going
Yeah.
to be a lot of hard work to get there. Like I have to get the schooling because I've been applying to a few like green jobs, and it's just like, wait, she was tap dancing 5 years ago, and now she wants to be like an environmentalist. Like, how does this line up? So I really think that it'll be of value to go back to school, and it'll
It's
add
just,
more to my work. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's there. I think that a lot of people think about their theatrical career is something like, well, if I'm not doing this full time, then I can't be doing it.
Mm.
And at a certain point in this economy, you need to
Let's
be able
go.
to
Let's
afford
go.
things,
Yeah.
right? And but I think that that a healthier choice is to say, you know what, I can get a job that's not in theater, and that can help to fund the theatrical things that I want to do. And I
Exactly.
think that kind of balance needs to be found.
I've like my okay, so my dad, for example, like he would play lounges in the 80s. He'd make like a full living being a musician, fully, and like good money too. Like now as an artist, like I've never thought of myself going back to school and pursuing a new career as like me losing my artistry. No, because I've always had to do a billion and one things to make art happen. So I think the next generation, like not even the next, but like this current generation of artists just like has a very solid understanding that like we have to do a bunch of things to make it all work. and I just want to be really, I want to be fulfilled by all those things,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
teaching's just not doing that for me anymore. And like the performing thing is just, it's so inconsistent that I'd rather just keep that as extra money.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I'm also like, I also feel like I have a good, like I'm like I'm smart. Like I want to, you know, like I want to use that. I want to like
Yeah.
share my ideas and like learn more. And yeah, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No. No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I think, people who have been in the arts have always worked like 2, 3 part-time jobs, to make ends
Oh,
meet. And so they're exhausted all the time. Better to work like a full-time job for less hours ultimately, and be able to afford the things.
yes, this is it. This is like, I'm just, the grinding, it's so unsustainable for me at this point. Like, I literally work all the time. Um, and I have to in order to make everything happen, in order to make the good money, in order to be able to fund the art, in order, like, and it's just, it's not, as I get older, like I want more for myself. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to just be this like vagabond freelancer, you know, like, and I loved it. I felt like a rock star in my 20s, like going from place to place and teaching and performing and blah, blah, like it was so much fun. But now it's honestly, the glamour of it has totally, like, it's not glamorous for me anymore. And it's like, yeah, no, 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 not for me.
That's I think that's the pattern that often happens. You're doing I will sleep on a couch to make this work, and then you start to get into your 30s and you're like, the couch hurts my back, and also
I,
I would like a house or a place to live, and I
yeah,
would like to not eat like macaroni or ramen or something. And
yeah,
so you start to make like, okay, how can I do that? And
yes.
some people go, okay, I'm leaving theater behind and I will do that. And other people go, I'm finding a balance so I can do
Mhm.
both.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at. I would like to find a balance. Like obviously things are going to shift, especially while I'm in school. I have to really focus. But I've been making art since I was a kid. Like this
Yeah.
isn't, it's not leaving me anytime soon. Um, and yeah, I'm tired. I'm ready to, like, I really I want a cabin in the woods. Oh my
Right.
God. I want a cabin in the woods so bad. And then I need like I need like some stability for that to happen. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's where my head's at.
I think that more people should realize that they can do both. That, you don't have to give up everything to keep the career going. And some people do
Right.
and they're happy doing it, but it's not the way it has to be.
Exactly. And like if you find cool employers or like, you know, if you have good time management skills, there's always a way to like juggle around a schedule, you know, like if you're good at your job and you're useful, like people will help you, and it's a give and
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. I also find, like, as somebody who has a full-time job,
Oh,
it's
you do?
important from day one to be like, I work when I am done my workday, I'm done my workday. I'm not putting in extra hours. Don't let them set that precedent if you're doing
Right.
like a day job, because that will eat up the time where you could be writing or creating a new thing or rehearsing or whatever. And that's how you sort of fall into well, I don't have time to do that anymore because I have this job. You need to be able to
True.
compartmentalize the job so that you can keep being creative.
Wow. Cool. I love to hear that from you. That's really inspiring. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's I for years I thought it wasn't possible to do both, and for a while I gave up theater, until I was like, like you said, you're creating, and you can't really give it up. It's something that to give it up, you have to basically like stamp it down and like never touch it
Snuff
again.
it out and
Yeah,
like
snuff it out, never touch that again.
exile.
I don't
Yeah.
go to see plays anymore. That's because it
Yeah.
hurts too much, right? Like,
Right. Right.
yeah. Um, so how you just came out of the Toronto Fringe.
Mhm. Mhm.
How was that as a festival? You mentioned, like, dance could be a weird thing at the Toronto Fringe. I think some cities are a little bit more like, yeah, we'll see some dance, and Toronto can be a little bit iffy on the dance. So how did you
Yeah.
find that experience as a dance show?
I'm grateful for the Toronto Fringe to be given the opportunity to present, especially at such like an iconic theater like Factory Theater Studio. Was it easy? No. I mean, the sheer amount of time that you have to enter the space and to get ready is so not conducive for a dance show. One of my dancers hurt their neck on stage. Yeah, because like she, like the warm up is it's disjointed. Like we had to warm up here. I have a home studio thing, which is really lucky. So we had to warm up here, and then we had to go down, and we set it. Like it's just it's not the way I really want to work going forward. I might have to, like, who knows, because of opportunities, can have to continue to do so. But I would really like to have like an hour in the theater before we begin, um, to just to warm up and get centered. And so in that regard, the Toronto Fringe was a little bit tough, but man, we had such good turnouts, especially with like the cross promotion between other activist groups. Like Greenpeace came, and Eco Justice, which is Canada's largest environmental law firm, came. Like there was a lot of great opportunities for that. um, yeah, I think, there's only 4 dance shows in Toronto Fringe.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's not lost on me that like the climate justice aspect of my show makes it a little bit niche. I wish it wasn't, because I feel like this is a message literally for everyone. Um, but yeah, I think, it was a good experience. It was a good experience. It was a little bit difficult at times, for sure.
Do you think that niche though gives your show a little edge that another dance show doesn't have? Because your show has a little something extra. It's not just like body movement. It's like body movement with a purpose.
Of yes, yes, I would say so. I would say so. And the people that see it, like everyone, like I'm never gonna win. I can't say never, but I don't see myself winning an award with this show. My last work, Worldly Women, won 2 awards. I don't know if this one will, because there's so many opinions about
Mm-hmm.
this issue. It affects
Right.
so many people. It affects everybody in very, like, in a variety of ways. So I get so much conversation, and we have a talk back after the show where we have questions and people have dialogues, and people sometimes, they have intense things to say, like, um they want to talk about communism. They want to talk about, I don't know. They want to, that's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
um, the point is that a lot of this work, the fourth art, evokes a conversation in people. It evokes something. So I don't think I'm ever going to win, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm ever going to like hit it, because people are like, well, you need to add this, or did you think about that? Or I don't know about that part, or that, like, and that's fine. That's fine, because honestly, what I'm doing is to spark conversation and rebellion, and
Yeah.
take back of power. I'm not doing this to win awards. I'm not doing this to be, grandiose. Like I'm literally trying to like incite more civic action in people.
Interestingly, I think that if a show sparks conversation after the show, and the response to a show is not that was nice, and people go away and never think of it again. If people are talking about a show after the show's over, yeah, that's a successful show as far as I'm concerned. If it
Hey,
sticks with people enough for them to have opinions, to talk about the show afterwards, then that's a show that has meaning and has affected people in a way that's really important.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we achieved that, even in the schools, the kids have lots to say. Um, there was a person, a fellow artist, that saw the show and was like, this was honestly the best show I've ever seen.
Hmm.
And she was like, I don't know why it's not on a main stage at the Fringe. And I'm like, I don't know either. But thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you head forward into uh, the Edinburgh Fringe, when this airs, the Edinburgh Fringe will be on.
Mhm.
You will be in the thick of it. Um, uh, how do you feel right now? When do you leave? What's the state of the fourth R right now?
We're in a good place. We have a new cast coming in. This there's been so many casts. I think I've like taught this show 13 times at this point. Um, but we're in a good place. We're ready to go. We're feeling good. We know what's ahead. I'm leaving a little bit before the cast arrives. And yeah, for one of the dancers, it'll be like their very first, like they just graduated in May. And yeah, so that this is like, what a thing to do after you've just been graduated. So I'm feeling good. I'm super nervous, but
Yeah.
let's go. Let's see some cool. And I'm also ready to go see some stuff. Like I want to see
Yeah.
some good works. Like I'm ready to
Yeah.
take it in. I'm ready to have the fourth R be seen and absorbed. And like, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want this to progress into something else.
Sure. I mean, that's what Edinburgh is for. Like the world goes to the Edinburgh Fringe. So like, that's what it's for.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, it's niche. It's niche.
Yeah.
So that could be a good thing. That could also be a deterrent. We'll see.
But it's sort of like, what is it from title of show? I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's ninth favorite thing. Like niche can be a good thing, right? Because it brings in the people who are motivated to see it.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna hold on to that.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time, and have a great Edinburgh Fringe.
Thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate it. This is such a cool conversation.
This has been an episode of Stageworthy. Stageworthy is produced, hosted, and edited by Phil Rickaby. That's me. If you enjoyed this podcast and you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave a review. Those reviews and ratings help new people find the show. If you want to keep up with what's going on with Stageworthy and my other projects, you can subscribe to my newsletter by going to philrickaby.com/subscribe. And remember, if you want to leave a tip, you'll find a link to the virtual tip jar in the show notes or on the website. You can find Stageworthy on Twitter and Instagram at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website with the complete archive of all episodes at stageworthy.ca. If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Phil Rickaby, and as I mentioned, my website is philrickaby.com. See you next week for another episode of Stageworthy.